Back in the 70s, people had some wild ideas about what life would be like in the year 2000 and beyond.
One of those ideas, a domed city in the heart of central Minnesota, almost came true. Dave Anderson tells us why we're not living today like the Jetsons in this week's Holding On to History.
The town of Swatara, south of Grand Rapids, still exists today because grand plans to turn the place into a Jetson-style dome city fell apart in the early 70s. The concept of the Minnesota Experimental City came from the dean of the University of Minnesota's Institute of Technology.
So the city was the brainchild of Athelstan Spilhaus, who gathered a team together of people like Buckminster Fuller, who thought outside the box.
Fuller invented the Dymaxion automobile in 1933 and was a big supporter of taking scientific chances.
Every time you make an experiment, you always learn more. You can't learn less.
Fuller is the one who wanted a dome over the 60,000-acre city of 200,000 people.
Athelstan Spilhaus never thought the dome was a great idea, but he wanted to keep Bucky happy.
Sharon Moen of Sea Grant wrote a book about Spilhaus, and she tells us the team also included Aldous Huxley, author of Brave New World. He feared for the future of humankind if changes in living weren't taken.
We are not going to be able to solve the ecological problem of man upon the earth.
The MXC was to be a multi-level, three-dimensional city under its dome.
The ground level would be for people only. Below the ground would be cars and emergency vehicles and trains and things like that. And then the infrastructure for the city would be above that.
The Minnesota legislature approved funds for MXC in 1971 and to begin construction near Swatara. Protests by the affected populace and action by the then new Minnesota EPA killed the project by 1973.
One of their first moves was to say, like, you can't build on this wetland, which is where this experimental city was going to be.
51 years later, Sharon Moen feels the Minnesota Experimental City would have failed anyway. Most people would chafe at the rules planned for the alleged utopia.
I don't think people would sign up for that because part of that was people had to have, like, let go of their history, let go of personal belongings, and buy into the idea that this is going to be an experiment.
Holding on to history in Aiken County, Dave Anderson, Northern News Now.
Just a fascinating piece of history that never was.
Yeah.
Athelstan Spilhaus also started the National Sea Grant College Program, which is part of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration.
Yeah, Sea Grant programs can be found locally in both Duluth and Superior. I don't know if you'd be willing to give up all of that for this experiment.
That's a lot to give up to live in something that you don't...
You don't know how it's going to turn out.
Strange idea, but made for a cool story from Dave.
Yeah.